Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to a brand new Severance Season 2 discussion. This one is all about that huge cliffhanger at the end of this past episode. Is Mark actually going to die? Are we going to lose Audi Mark? Then by extension of that, maybe any Mark, depending on how you think the relationship between Innies and Audis really work.
Yeah, I mean, anything is possible with this show. I don't think that they're going to kill off Mark. He's very important to Lumen. He's very important to what's going on with bringing back Miss Casey or Gemma. But I mean, what happens once Gemma's brought back? Do they need Mark for anything else? We don't know.
Well, this is where things get very, very interesting because I know a lot of you out there are probably even rolling your eyes at me asking this question of, is Mark going to die? Because, like, of course, he's Adam Scott, he's the lead of the show, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yes, I get all of that. But even if Mark survives now, that's one thing you alluded to. That doesn't mean that Mark's going to survive forever. But then beyond all that, what are the consequences of Mark living in the sense of who would be able to save him? And then what are the consequences of Mark being saved? Because I do think we are going to lose a character this season, and I think it could be a pretty important one, even if it is not Mark.
Yeah, that's the thing about Severance is it's a show that is not predictable. They take huge swings. They don't mind doing things that are going to make us think or be upset or feel good, have a melon party. They're across the board. You don't know what is actually going to happen on this show. And there are a few other shows out there that have been like this over the years that have killed off main characters and continued on.
All right, well, we are going to dive headfirst into all this, talk about who could be going, how they could be going. Before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we are going to be here, of course, with more Severance coverage throughout the rest of this season. And thank you as well to everyone who has been subscribing in honor of Jess's 50th birthday, helping us get to that 70,000 milestone. Like, we really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, we're closing in on it. We're pretty close. I mean, it really means a lot to us and that you have been hitting that subscribe button. My birthday's on Friday, so hopefully we can make that goal. And thank you so much to everyone who has. But also join our Patreon if you want more video coverage of other shows that we are covering right now, which is The Pit, which is airing over on Max, and also Prime Target, which is airing over on Apple TV Plus. It is the only place that you can get those reviews, and they're up weekly. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined. It helps us tremendously.
Thank you guys so much. And it's apropos that you mentioned The Pit here because we are going to become emergency room doctors for a moment. Let me get on my stethoscope. Okay.
Look at you, Dr. Robbie.
So I'm running in.
Oh, wow.
Here is Mark. Let's examine Mark's current medical condition for a moment.
It's not good.
He is seemingly unconscious. We have seen the hole that is in his head.
Yep.
He has tried to accelerate this process of reintegration very, very quickly. Ragabi seems to think that she has figured things out more than she has when it comes to Petey. But I think an important thing here is that we're still dealing with an experiment here, and we all kind of know what happens. And I don't want to sit here and just say that Ragabi is a mad scientist, but she's a little bit of a mad scientist which
is why we love her.
Yeah, but it's always this sort of thing where you get so caught up in your own sauce that are you suddenly like, my plans will never fail, and you end up like making the whole laboratory explode. Like, there is a certain amount of risk that inherently goes on by the idea that Mark, somebody who is insanely desperate at this point, is willing to trust and go all in with this person who seemingly does not have that big of a sample size of what they are doing.
No, they really don't. But desperation will make you do desperate things. And that is why Mark is in this spot at this point, that he is just like, I'm all in, whatever it takes to get back to the person that I love, to be able to save them, to be able to see them that one last time. It's something that I think all of us experience in some sort of form. Maybe we're not having Ragabi go through our head and do what she's doing or whatever. But I feel like for the ones that we love, that we really want to see again, we're willing to put ourselves at risk.
So once again here, the doctors are in the room and we're trying to figure out what to do, how to save Mark. Who are the people who are present here who could help? We have Ragabi,
Yep.
mad scientist. Is she really going to be able to do this on her own at that point? I have my doubts.
And then we have Devin, and
Yes.
she's not really able to help a lot. She doesn't
No.
know what is going on. She just showed up and found out now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Do we really count on these two to be able to help Mark get out of this situation? Because then this is where things get a little bit interesting. Because, yes, I do believe that Mark is going to survive all of this,
Yes.
but we have to remember Lumen kind of controls almost everything in this universe. And we've seen, as even recently in some of the stuff with Miss Wong, where she's administering some sort of, I don't want to know if we want to call it medicine or treatment within the walls of this company.
Yeah, she was using like a blood pressure
Yeah.
gauge. It says Lumen on it. Lumen very clearly is involved in the medical space in some kind of way.
Yeah, so there's a couple of options here. Either you say, oh no, we got to get Mark to the hospital. Let's rush Mark to the hospital. Mark gets to the hospital. They see what's going on. They see that there's some like Lumen nonsense going on here. And then the doctor, whoever is at the hospital, ends up telling Lumen about it. Or the person who is the doctor is somebody with Lumen. The other possibility is that you just have to go to Lumen themselves at this point, where they are the only ones who are going to be able to save Mark.
Yeah, that's where I think Devin is going to possibly step in this spot, because Ragabi is not going to want to go to Lumen for anything.
No.
So Devin being there feels like it's very on purpose for a reason, not just so that she finds out what's going on, but that she might be the person to save Mark, to be like, okay, I don't like Lumen, I don't like what's going on, but I really don't like what's going on now. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know who you are and what you're doing to my brother, but my brother is dying. I'm calling somebody at Lumen to come and fix him, because she knows that they will come and do that. Lumen
Yeah.
doesn't want to lose Mark, so they will step in.
Exactly. That is the big thing. Lumen does not want to lose Mark. They need him to finish Cold Harbor.
Right.
Seemingly, he is fairly close at this point to finishing Cold Harbor. So they're going to do whatever they can to make sure this is done. And this is where, tinfoil hats on here. What could be happening moving forward is that Lumen gets involved in saving Mark.
Yeah.
In doing so, they're going to recognize what is happening here. Like, they may not be fully privy to everything in the world, but they're not dumb. Like, they clearly have eyes and ears everywhere. They're going to figure out that Mark is trying to do something to tamper with his innie and outie selves. And based on everything we do know about Lumen, I mean, they have this Glasgow block that they're able to sort of make people switch on and off. Like, they certainly probably have another way where they can be like, okay, we're still going to use Mark, but we're also going to stop some of this nonsense that's going on. So we're going to make it so that this reintegration idea, boop, that's all done. You're not going to be able to do it now.
Yeah, I mean, there's part of me that wonders if they're just going to sort of take out the chip and put in a brand new, fresh one that doesn't have any of the problems that this old one has. And it's going to take away some of those memories, some of the things that he was able to figure out. And he's going to be starting all the way from nothing.
To make a certain ominous quote here, Mark to them may just be bad product at this point.
Oh.
That's really sad, but that's sort of how they probably view him. I mean, we've seen a lot of these higher ups at Lumen sort of think that these innies are just commodities that they can use and throw away.
They're not people.
No, and that's going to be the thing that really complicates this whole equation. Now, I know a lot of people out there are going to be enraged by this idea of, okay, Lumen's going to save Mark, and then Mark's going to not be able to reintegrate anymore, and then we're just going backwards, going all the way to square one. And that's going to be annoying, but here is where I will tell everybody, I mean, you already got your tinfoil hats on, put your hard hats on here too.
All right, we're all holding on.
Okay. Does anybody else remember Game Genie? This is something that was around for all of us who wanted to cheat on Super Mario Brothers 3 and get the Sledgehammer Mario suit and just sledgehammer everybody to death in the entire game. It was very exciting, but we have basically been Game Genieing our way through Severance this season, where it feels like we're getting to the end game way too early. It's a little bit too easy that Mark is able to already reintegrate, already figure some things out. Why would we think that everything is going to move in this great of a straight line? I think this is all representing Lumen saying, okay, maybe you're going to be able to be Sledgehammer Mario, but you're not going to be able to do it this fast. You have to beat the game like a normal person.
I just feel that if he's able to save Gemma now in
Yeah.
season 2, then we're never going to learn what's actually happening and what's going on with Cold Harbor. I think we need Cold Harbor to actually be completed so that we actually know what is going on.
Yeah.
And whether or not Mark knows what's going on as well is the only way he's going to be able to kind of move to that next stage. It feels like the end of the season, we're going to be kind of turning the corner of Mark has finished.
Yeah.
So what happens to Gemma now and what happens to Mark now? Do they need him anymore? Is he gone? Is he just retired? Like, what happens?
Like, that's another really exciting challenge. And having us get to that point where we can explore that, like, that's really fascinating. And we don't need this other product of Mark's reintegration in order to make that happen. Like, I could be taking a giant, that's not an L. I could be taking a giant L on, I don't know which way is which anymore. But I just feel like if Severance is meant to go longer than 3 seasons, we can't have all this happen right now. Like, a season 3 hasn't even been confirmed, but I feel like it's going to. I do not want this show to end anytime soon. I'm fine with taking the slow ride here.
Yeah, I just feel that if Mark is able to get her out this season, then why would he ever have his innie go back in anymore? There's not a reason for outie Mark to want to do that. There's a reason for any Mark to want to do that and not want to lose Helly and the relationship that they're building, but outie Mark doesn't care about that.
So if you go along this line of thinking, you may be like, oh, all hope is lost now. Mark can't reintegrate anymore. Lumen's taking care of all this. This is where the onus is going to fall. And I hate to say it because we all may dislike this character for a number of very good reasons, but the onus is going to fall on Helena because Helena has been the only sort of really high up person at this company right now who, regardless of whether or not she's saying it to Drummond or anybody else in the board, she clearly has a different sort of association with these innies, and she might be lying to herself at times, but I think she's going to ultimately have to be the one to sort of change things. Like, I don't think this show is going to end with Mark and everybody else just trapped as innies forever, but this may be the actual way to quote unquote beat the game without taking any sort of shortcuts along the way.
I think there's 3 options of people that might be able to help Mark out in this situation. It might be her. I mean, she's done some pretty terrible things, but it does seem like she is kind of flip-flopping a little bit, but other people who are also kind of flip-flopping, Cobel, who's been, we don't know where at this point, on the run, and Milchick, who I think is really the biggest wild card in all of this, where things are starting to come in where he's not feeling as confident as he was about his position, about what he's doing, about who he works for, and some of the not great things that have been even shown in front of him, like those paintings, 6-hour performance review for some paper clips. Like, it's not what he thinks it is. And I think you're right. You've said this before. It's very specific that he rides a motorcycle. It is a symbol of freedom, of taking a risk, you know, that sort of thing. I think that him on the outside is somebody who is more free and takes more of a risk. And I think him on the inside is now starting to be that way as well. And because he did make such a close relationship with Irv, where he was like, I actually consider us friends. And, you know, Drummond's like, oh, you don't consider them people, you know, they're animals. Don't, what are you doing? I think he's just really hitting the curve and making a change. And I think that he could start to see Mark in that way as well.
I just think we have now Milchick, maybe Cobel, maybe Natalie, maybe Helena.
Natalie's not changing over. I wish she was, but she's not.
I want to believe in you, Natalie.
It's not Natalie.
I just want the Severance Lumen Avengers to come together here. It's like with Helena, it's like maybe it was a distraction, maybe it's just you're trying to like get an outie Mark's head. I don't know. I just think you have some sort of ulterior motive for you specifically going to that diner. I don't think it's a coincidence. You're trying to feel out outie Mark. And I just think there's something there that is brewing that may take a lot of time in order to fully get there. But that is sort of the solution for if, and in my opinion, when reintegration fails, because I think we're kind of at that point now.
Yeah, I think it's just once Lumen is called in, because I feel really confident Lumen has to get called in. Ragabi's not going to be able to fix this. Devin can't do anything except call somebody for help, whether she likes them or not. he's not going to fix himself. So Lumen has to be called in. You take him to a regular hospital where it's not Lumen technology. They don't know what's going on. They're going to also have to call Lumen. There is only one choice on this to save his life.
Now, if we are saving Mark's life, we alluded to this early at the start of this video, somebody probably is going to go. And this is where, Ragabi, your days are numbered. And Severance. Ragabi is going to die by the end of this season.
100%. 100%. If it is brought to Lumen's attention that this has happened with Mark and Ragabi has done this to Mark, she is done. This company is absolutely going to take her out.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is Lumen's going to do whatever they can to make sure Cold Harbor is completed at this point.
Yes.
Ragabi is clearly the biggest problem for them. And if you are Lumen, I think you can get rid of Ragabi and do it in such a way that the opinions or emotions of Outie Mark are not going to impact any Marks too greatly. I think we're both in agreement that the Annies and Outies, there's at least an essence that exists between both worlds, even if their personality traits or how they react to things may be a little bit different. It's a bit riskier, and I think this is on the table. I don't think we're getting here yet, where they're like, okay, Devin is starting to be a problem for us. We need to take out Devin.
I agree.
I don't think it's happening this season, but
no.
I think if they do that, it's too big a risk that you're going to end up impacting any Mark to a level where psychologically he's not going to be the same and he's not going to be able to do his job. But I do think they will take out anybody as a means to an end to get what exactly it is that they want.
I think once Mark has completed Cold Harbor, Devin is on the table. I think before that, Devin is not on the table because they're not going to want Outie Mark to have more grief and more problems where then he might not want to go back as any Mark. He's already in there for Gemma. I think if he also loses his sister, Outie Mark is going to unravel in a way that could affect any Mark. And they're so close that I think they'll just wait until they can get that done. And Devin knows too much now and she'll probably have to go.
This entire Annie story, just in general, it's a high wire act where they're just trying to keep Mark on that high wire long enough so that he gets to the end and nobody knocks him down. And they're going to do what they have to do to make sure. And then maybe it is once he gets to that end, they do shove him off. And, you know, who knows what happens to him then. That might be the cliffhanger at the end of this season.
I think the thing is that all of us want to have some sort of happy ending for all of these characters. I mean, it's a pretty miserable situation that put them as innies in the first place, except for Irv, who we both think is a detective working undercover for the cops. I think he put himself there on purpose to be able to go in there and get information. But the rest of them have had difficult situations where they have put themselves in there for another reason, like a Dylan or like a Mark, right? So I think we want to see. And yeah, Helena's terrible, but everybody's rooting for Helly. So we want everybody to have some sort of a happy ending. But because this is Severance, it's I've got my hard hat on for this, that not everybody is going to have that happy ending. I don't think we're going to see, I hate to say it, but Irv and Bert go off into the sunset unless they're both in the Innie world, because we also think that Bert's on the board. And that he's been with this company for a very long time and he's running the show. And that it's not a great situation over there. But I think that we will at least get a happy ending for one of them.
I sure hope so. I just think that in conclusion here, is Mark going to die? Probably not.
Not right now.
No. But I think the thing we should all be worried about is what are the ramifications that come with saving Mark? Because I will say this right now. Yeah, sure, it will be great if Ragabi's just able to somehow fix Mark. Everything is well and good at the start of the next episode, but that's also going to be deeply unsatisfying for the story and the cliffhanger. There has to be consequences to these actions, even if they are not consequences that we like.
Listen, she doesn't have that much experience about what is going on here and what she's been doing. Can she get lucky? Sure, but that doesn't seem to be what's happening here. It seems like things have gone really sideways, and without the experience to be able to fix this, I don't know how else it gets fixed except that Devin calls Lumen.
All right, well, that's where we are with our Severance Season 2 theory discussion here. But do you guys think that Mark could actually die? Or rather, how do you think Mark is going to be saved? Let us know in the comments. Also, hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 70,000
Mhm.
for Jess's birthday. And you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description below. We
Mhm.
are covering The Pit on Max, like
Yeah.
we said, alongside Prime Target on Apple TV Plus. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you here next time.